So that's really cool. We wind up selling CDs to people in Japan, and things like that, which is awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
If there's any negative, I would say that sometimes the promotion can become a little diffuse.
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm talking about. You reach some people who are really really interested in the music and very focused, but you also wind up reaching a lot of people who are kind of they're never going to come to a show, they're never going to buy a CD,
right?
So sometimes I feel like I'm expending a ton of energy to reach all of these people, and it's only hitting home here and there in these places. I guess the flip side of that is I'm trying to think of how to put it. Even though you wind up reaching a lot of people who just don't care that much, the energy you're expending and the work you're putting in, it's still, I think that in my opinion, the diversity of the audience you can reach probably outweighs that. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. And you know, especially when you're a new person starting out, you're going to have to put in a lot more energy because you're just getting you're trying to build an audience. Ground.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's where we're at right now. We just started playing out. Josh was working on a couple film scores, so we took some time between that first performance and when we started playing out to record an EP, which you reviewed.
Yeah.
And then we started really putting some effort into promotion and getting some press and getting some reviews and just reaching out to as many different places as we can.
Yeah, definitely. And it doesn't happen overnight.
No, not
at all.
Which is, but as long as you don't expect that.
Exactly.
You expect to send out 50 CDs and you're going to get 5 responses if you're doing really well.
Right, exactly.
And you just have to go into it with that expectation, so then you don't feel like you're being drained by the experience.
Right, exactly. Because I think a big mistake a lot of new artists make, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna finish our CD and then we're gonna go on tour. It's we'll have groupies and all the whole shebang, and then it's like when that doesn't happen right away.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, well that sucks, and then I think that's when a lot of people get discouraged. That's when they start to second guess themselves, and it's really not them. It's like you just need to go about it with, you can't really have your expectations too high. I mean, you want to build up, but you don't want to, be like, we're going to be these huge rock stars, because you're not. You're not going to be mobbed in the streets, you're not going to,
Right, and it helps when you're doing, we're doing Celtic Fusion.
Yes.
Celtic Fusion is not going to be on MTV anytime soon. I think that the genre we're working in, we already have a certain expectation of the finite audience that we're shooting for.
Yeah, and that's another good thing to really kind of know the audience that you're trying to aim at, and sometimes that's not easy, because especially when you have so many different influences and everything, and I mean it doesn't hurt to try to shoot it out to Pink Floyd fans or Lorena McKennitt fans or whatever, but you also, it's just kind of keep in mind not all of them are going to love what you do.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you have to just kind of there's going to be some people here who love what you do, some people in the goth genre who love what you do, some people in the progressive rock, Pink Floyd, Led Zeppelin, kind of, that like what you do. And then there's going to be people from all those audiences who are just kind of exactly.
Well, speaking of the conservative classical world, the traditional folk world is just as conservative.
Yes, it is.
The fact that we are playing with instruments that were made in the last 50 years. And it's really ridiculous because all of the folk tradition Celtic music that we know is mostly from the 1800s.
Right.
And those tunes were completely different 100 years before that.
Exactly.
But this scene gets stuck in this one little slice of time, and we need to keep repeating this, and part of what led me to do this kind of thing is, okay, here are these songs and tunes, and they're great songs and tunes, but let's not be stuck in this rut. Let's take them into what music is now.
And folk tradition, I mean, oral tradition is all about evolving.
Yes.
It's all, it should be. It should be all about you know, changing with the times and variations coming in as different styles gain popularity or lose popularity. And that's the wonderful thing about this organic continuum, you know, of folk music, folk traditions in general.
Oh yeah. And so, I've since, you know, I do kind of weave some Celtic folk into my stuff. Yeah. I've experienced some of that, like some of like the uber like conservative who just want to see somebody sitting there strumming their guitar, singing Green Sleeves with like nothing else. Like I've seen some of, you know, we've experienced that. Like we did a show a couple of years ago. It was like in Virginia, and it was, you know, at, you know, like this kind of like new agey kind of place and everything, and we're going in there with our black, you know, and all that stuff. And, you know, and we did do like a good deal of the stuff, like my, you know, like the lower tempo stuff and everything. But, you know, there were some people even then that said it was too dark, you know, and there were people who loved it. But there were other people, they were like, well, that's too dark. You know, I just want to hear the harps. And I'm like, you're missing the whole point. But, you know, but that's their taste. You know, you know?
And that's what we really strive for, is to differentiate between taste and quality. We're not going to reach everybody, and that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them, or that there's something wrong with us. Different people have different tastes. The things that we really appreciate in music aren't going to be the same as the things everybody else does. So you want to expose people to new things, and you want to, you know, push a few boundaries here and there, but you don't have to be all things to all people.
Right, yeah, and you're not going to be. And if you try to be all things to all people, it's like you're never going to get anywhere. You know?
Exactly.
So, cool. All right. Well, speaking of not, you know, reaching, you know, not everybody, if I can talk today. It's like, you know, but like, speaking of like not being an overnight success and like it taking a while. Obviously, and I've asked this question to a couple different people, but I'm interested in getting just, you know, different perspectives on the industry from people. You know, I'm sure you guys are aware of the fact that a lot of times, like, especially the mainstream media, they kind of sell you the idea on the overnight success, like with like like all the reality shows and, you know, American Idol. And, you know, I had a couple people tell me, like, when American Idol came through, you should go audition for American Idol. I'm like, really? You can see me on American Idol. The only person I would really like take any value in their opinion would maybe be Steven Tyler. Everybody else would be like, J-Lo, like, really? You can see me listening to Jennifer Lopez on music, but I digress. But, you know, but that was my overall reaction. But like, what are your views on those types of things, and just the fact that the media pushes it, and so many young people, they tend to try to, like, you know, just pack everything up and go to Hollywood and thinking they're going to be this overnight success because that's what's pushed on them. And, you know, like, what are your thoughts and opinions on that? And, like, do you think, I mean, I'm sure I know the answer to this, but do you think it does more harm than good to people?
You know, I think the people that care about that sort of thing are not the people who want to put 80 hours a week practicing guitar.
That's true. Yeah.
So these are the people who aren't going to be the Led Zeppelins. They aren't going to be the Aerosmith or the Church or whatever. They're not going to be those people. Yeah. So if they didn't have this fantasy, they'd form a garage band and play a couple shows and disband because they weren't an overnight success. I don't think it really hurts. I think it's silly. I think, well, you've even seeing guitar magazines where they take questions from the readers and ask the famous guitarists, how often they practice, thinking that they don't practice anymore because they're famous now. And I guess, I don't know.
I know it's a pretty heavy question and everything, but what are your thoughts on it?
I think that, I do think that concept does a little bit of harm. I've seen it trip people up before. They get this impression that, you get applause from one thing and they think that a switch is going to flip and they're going to become a rock star or become super famous all at once. And they lose sight of, in the case of musicians, they lose sight of what music is all about. Yeah. Which is, well, and I guess this is my opinion, but, the craftsmanship and the, bringing out the essence and the soul of what you're doing. And that stuff, you can't rush that stuff. No. You've gotta take the time. You've got to, put the work in. Yeah. And if you're so focused on fame, right, that you lose sight of what you actually enjoy about things, that's why people give up. Because they lost sight of what they enjoyed about music in the first place, and they didn't get that instant fame that TV promised them. Right. And so they just toss it in. And it's not limited to, this is stuff that's been going on forever. The cult of celebrity has been around since,
like the dawn of
time.
Since the ancient Greeks put up the first theater. And
and we get this snapshot of people at the peak of their career. Right. So we think that the peak was all they ever had. Yes. And that's just not how it works. No. The people who are really good at what they do have put in so much work ahead of time.
Oh, absolutely.
I was really fortunate growing up in that I had some good mentors who warned me ahead of time about all this stuff. Yeah. And encouraged me to kind of keep my head down and do the work and